I have found that the most belligerent people, once accommodated, become your biggest assets and allies out there in the market. They talk about you the most.
All right, Matt, we're back with another episode of the Marketing Mindset. Today, I wanted to actually ask you a question. You're often talking about trust and credibility in marketing. I think I got a pretty good idea what that means, but what does it mean to you?
So the phenomenon, the psychology of the consumer is largely informed by something called social proofing, right? We've talked about this a little bit in the past, like we've touched on it from time to time, but this is the idea that when somebody's looking for a service and they're not sure that they're ready to choose you yet, they can see that other people have elected to use you, and they can read about why, right? What qualities about your company influence are important to them. And then the consumer begins to resonate with that. It helps them get from that middle section of the sales funnel down to the bottom section of the sales funnel where they're like, okay, I like these guys and I'm ready to make a buying decision. I feel like I'm gonna give these guys a shot.
When you talk about social proof, you're talking about the aspect of, like, for example, last night I was going to grab a bite. There were two restaurants, one side by side. One had literally no one there and the other one had like a line out the door. And so I just reasoned.
Not line out the door.
Let me get myself on the list of the one with the line. And I'll come back 45 minutes later when I need to get in. It's probably a better idea.
What a great analogy.
Yep.
It's a perfect analogy. There's a restaurant like that here in Charlotte where once we finally got the seat for me and Katie for an anniversary date night, we were sitting down. Is this what it was made out to be? The restaurant next door went bankrupt, right? The restaurant that we were at right next to it was, you couldn't get, you have to be like a month and a half out to get a seat. We finally get in there and man, it was worth every penny that we spent. It was worth the wait. It was worth all of it. But the only reason we endured that to make this decision as consumers at this restaurant, or as a homeowner looking for pest control, looking for lawn care, looking for HVAC care, right, is because I can see other people are down with this, and that gives me a peace of mind that I can get down with this too, especially if you think about it like this from an economic perspective in the States, right? Especially when the market is as tight as it is, people care more about social proofing now that money is tight than they do when money is on the freer side, right? When they've got flexibility and cash in their pocket. It's pivotal right now to make sure, especially as you're walking out of the season for pest control, walking out of the season for lawn care. There's not really a season there are 2 seasons for heating and air. When you're leaving your season, it's important to shift gears, if you haven't already, and start to focus on social proofing, getting people talking about your company and publishing these things all over the place so that people can find you, people can learn about you, people can trust you.
I interrupted you. We're going to talk now a little bit about credibility.
This is a great example. Yesterday, Katie and I were looking at, we're working with a CPA, do some financial planning, right? I was ready to go. You know how I'm just enough like my dad to where I'm like, that's the one I want. I'm not compromising. We're doing that one. And Katie's like, well, I've been reading these reviews and I just want to take it slow. I just want you to read these with me so we can decide. And we diverted a huge catastrophe yesterday just by reading about other people's experience working with this particular agency to kind of help with whatever. So finding that credibility or establishing that credibility or lack thereof is really important for your business to continue to grow and thrive.
I have a feeling you're going to talk about reviews today.
Oh yeah. Reviews are key. And when I first started at Killingsworth, we had to build our own tool to get the word out about our company to consumers, right?
Yep.
there wasn't a plethora of ways that companies can do that. And honestly, with most of the companies that are clients that we're working with right now, they are having a lot of luck. Shout out Podium for generating an incredible amount of reviews and an incredible amount of control over dialogue with the consumer, because a review is not just a one-time post and it's done, right? Let's pretend I'm working with Paul's company in Florence, right? And I had a really shitty experience, right? There are tools that are letting the business owner know, hey, you just got a review and it's not great. You're going to want to look into this. And it gives you the opportunity to jump in and respond to this. Hey, I'm so sorry you had this experience. We're going to send somebody back out there. Let me know what else I can do. Not even solving the problem, but replying back to the fact that you see that there is a problem there also lets a future consumer know, hey, these guys take customer care very seriously. There was this notion in between when we were doing our thing as a family business, before we sold it, and all of these apps and programs that are out there now to help you generate these reviews, that this was somehow disingenuous. But I push back on that notion entirely, if I could explain. The way that it works is, so the stars are 1 to 5, right? I just got business done with Paul. And I'm not satisfied. I'm going to give this a 3, and I'm going to lay out why, right? This particular device type of tool lets Paul know, hey, before this gets published, you've got a 3-star, and this is going to diminish your standing with the public, right? You're going to go from like a 4.9 to a 4.87, right? And so here's the review, and you can reply back to it right here. And it gives you the opportunity to correct a problem before it becomes a bigger problem. And in some ways, that's led business owners like my dad previously to believe that this is just disingenuous. These are all bullshit reviews. No, the reviews are true. Right. Mm-hmm. The thing that it's giving you is like the safety net. It's like you're swinging on a trapeze. You got the safety net underneath you of, hey, in the event that we miss, because it's inevitable, because we're all human. Sometimes your technician has a shitty day and they roll up to the house and they weren't putting their best foot forward. This is giving you an opportunity to make that right before it goes public. And in that way, it is 100% not disingenuous. So if there's like this mindset in the people that are listening to us or joining us that these tools are crap and it's just pushing up positive reviews, yes, it is pushing up positive reviews. It's also giving you the opportunity to correct negative reviews and giving you the capability of dialoguing with your consumer in a different way. And this becomes really powerful to people who are like, hey, I really appreciate people like my wife, Paul, will look at how you respond to a shitty review for your Florentine plumbing company, right? They'll read your response to the review and then make that determination on whether or not they can do business with you, especially in an economic environment like this one.
She'll read the owner or the manager's response to the review.
Yeah, she cares. She cares how you treat your customer. I don't think that way, which is why I'm grateful that she does. But she thinks that way. How do they take care of the consumer? That's more important to me than a bad review, right? Because that's inevitable. You always got Karens out there Karen's going to be Karens, okay? And they're going to find something to get pissed off about, and they're going to let you know. Every business owner knows this. There's plenty of Karens out there in the world. God help us all. But how you respond to them is important.
You raise a good question, at least for me, is like, how should you respond to this sort of stuff? Because
to Karens?
At the end of the day, you're going to have a variety of different reviews, right? You're going to have, if we talk about bad reviews, you're going to have bad reviews that are legitimate, that like you or somebody on your team actually screwed up and the customer's pissed rightfully. Yeah. And then you're going to have the, I guess Karen. You call it a Karen, who's just moaning about, like
something.
I called up this company and they said like X job was going to cost so much amount of money, and that's just way too much. I'm giving this guy a negative, a 1-star review just because she didn't like the price, right? So that kind of stuff happens, and I think most people kind of disregard that sort of stuff. But when somebody has a legitimate concern, gives a mediocre review, how should business owners get in the habit of responding to any of these things? I've seen businesses be very combative, right? Yeah. And then I've seen businesses on the other end of the spectrum saying like, that shouldn't happen under any other circumstances, please contact the office. We're going to refund your money and we're going to make this right, right? Yes. So there's a variety of different ways.
So you've got two paths. You've got a legitimate concern, a legitimate failing on the company's behalf, and then you've got Karen, right? Those are the two paths, right? And then you've got two ways per path that you can respond. I can either be shitty or I can try to figure out how to be accommodating. So I want to talk about both scenarios, if that's cool. In the legitimate concern scenario, right? Your company has missed the mark, late for an appointment, messed up on the bill, right? Did not perform the service up to the excellence that you are accustomed to as the owner operator, right? Those things happen, right? It's inevitable. It's okay when it happens, right? How you respond is important, right? In those specific scenarios, my encouragement to business owners is always do right by the customer. This is ingrained in us from our family business, right? The customer is right, and we've missed that. That people have started to walk away from that mentality. I don't know if you feel it in our like cultural zeitgeist in the age of social media and all this kind of stuff, right? Cancel culture, blah blah blah, right? I think it's even more important now to be right in the eyes of your customer. That doesn't mean, especially if you know that you have missed the mark, correct it, right? Correct it and let them know that you intend on correcting it. And that you'll be back out to meet them at blah, blah, blah to make sure that they are feeling good about the service that they're doing with your company, because you will make more money for your company by keeping that customer with you, not by saying goodbye to every customer that has a problem with you. Number one, you're avoiding the fact that you may have missed the mark, right? And you're not being honest with yourself or your company that we can do better, right? But number two, if you're constantly saying goodbye to people, you've got a nutrition problem. And then by the time they call Paul to sell their company, they're not going to kind of get the numbers that they're looking for because they can't seem to hold on to their customers, right? My mindset there is do right by the customer, right? Do what you can to make peace with that customer and to get them to the next chapter. Mostly, I have found that the most belligerent people, once accommodated, become your biggest assets and allies out there in the market. They talk about you the most. That's I would say that's true from a business owner. That's definitely been true from owning a business now with Lizard, right? When we've got people that are belligerent and we navigate through a process with them, man, our net promoter score is fantastic. They're talking about us all day long. I know we're not ready for that yet. So that's scenario one. Scenario two, you get a Karen, right? My recommendation in the Karen circumstance is to be as accommodating and honest and polite as possible. Okay. At Lizard, we keep meticulous receipts. Okay. We're trial by fire. Okay. We've learned from our mistakes in the past when we don't keep receipts with our clients and our clients say, you guys said this. Then we're scrambling to try to figure out what went wrong and how did we miss, right? We've got tools in place right now for our client meetings that, artificial intelligence is helping us create action items, transcribing meetings, giving us feedback and overviews, all this kind of meticulous receipts, right? So if you've got a Karen and you know that your company did everything right and this person can't be satisfied, my recommendation is be civil, be polite. Do not diminish this person at all online, right? But say, it looks like from our records, we this and this and this and this, and then we attempted to accommodate you by doing this. I'm sorry this doesn't meet your satisfaction. We're doing our very best, and leave it right there, right? And let that be. The Karen's going to be Karen, right? You can't fix a Karen. You really can't. No offense, actual Karens before this was a term that you have to deal with now, and I'm sorry. It's like saying Pauls are going to be Paul, right? Matt's going to be Matt.
Yep.
It sucks if your name is Karen, and I'm sorry. But that's how I would treat them. So accommodate the client in scenario one, be polite and keep receipts for scenario two. And put your best foot forward. And that's the best you can do. It will, I promise you, if you take both of those paths, your future consumers will line up behind what you're saying, because future consumers also know and are frustrated by Karens. And so they'll read their reviews and they don't think the world is ending just because you got one Karen on there popping their mouth off about X, Y, or Z, right? But a great example, my favorite show of all time, Paul, I don't know if, like my Beyonce, I have a Beyonce. It's not Beyonce. My Beyonce is Chef Gordon Ramsay. He did a show called Kitchen Nightmares. Did you ever watch Kitchen Nightmares?
No, but I've heard of it. Yes, I've never seen it.
It's so good. It is so good. It's like the best, honest brutal trash television there is. It's such comfort food to me. I've got a whole channel in my room right over there dedicated to Kitchen Nightmare reruns. I can quote all them. It's sad. Anyway, one of his most famous combative clients was Amy's Baking Company, I think was the name of it. So pull that up.
The customer is not always right.
Don't come back, madam. I'd be happy not to see you again.
Guys, I make excellent food.
Go out! Don't speak like this. Go
I
out!
am going to really hurt somebody.
May 10th, 2013.
You are both nuts.
I know.
Millions of viewers were introduced to Amy's Baking Company.
She would reply back the nastiest comments on every single critique of her business, right? This is not true because of this, and you're just a troll because of this, and blah, 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 back and forth, back and forth. And it tanked her company, like 100% tanked her company. And it was probably I think it was the most famous episode of Kitchen Nightmares, like, at all, like ever. And he even revisited it several years later. And the husband-wife duo, they just completely went under, and it was brutal. It was so embarrassing. I can't believe people actually act like this. It's a lesson for all of us. There's no need to be combative, and there's no need to get your feathers ruffled when you're trying to defend your reputation online. Be honest, try to accommodate your client, and keep receipts is the best way forward for sure.
But when Amy gave me a tour of her kitchen,
Chef Gordon Ramsay, if you
things
ever
started
find
getting a little...
these are videos that we're putting out, just know that I love you. I would love to meet you one day. I love you.
Fuck him.
When you talk about being defensive, I thought about the fact that, the day when you and I recorded last week, I was in one of my favorite hotels in the world in Milan called Palazzo Parigi. And there's going to be a handful of you out there watching this who have actually dined with me there before, because a lot of folks in the industry have come over, visited.
Bro, when do I get my invite is all I'm saying.
You got the open invite.
Yes.
So I'm there all the time, and I stayed there last week, the day we recorded, went to the restaurant, and I ordered my standard dish, a veal dish, and it actually came out a little bit burned. Now, it wasn't browned, and it wasn't burned enough where it was not consumable. It was just slightly burned, definitely below the standards of this restaurant. And this is probably, there's the two best hotels in Milan are probably the Savoy and Palazzo Parigi. I think those are the two tops. So it's a very nice hotel. And so when the waiter came around, I said to the waiter, I said, hey, this appears to be a little bit burned. I've had this dish here 6 or 7 times. I've never seen it like this. And he proceeds to tell me that's normal and that's the way it's done.
Dang.
That I was wrong.
Dang it.
And so that really set me off. So
Affects you.
when I left the restaurant, I stopped by, the restaurant manager was there, and I said, hey, listen.
Good for you.
I wanted to let you know something. Here's what happened. Here's what I told your waiter. Here's how he responded to me. Now, of course, the manager, he was befuddled and couldn't believe this happened and said, listen, I want to take care of this. I'm going to do all these things for you. I'm going to give you the dish for free. And I said, actually, I don't want it. I like the restaurant. I like the hotel. I just thought you should know. And he knows me. He's seen me there. I'm there every few months. And so
Sure.
I said, I thought you should know this. So then I left. I went back to my room. And then later that night, this huge cart came in it had champagne, it had cakes and chocolates and candies and all.
Oh my
and they just
gosh.
gave me this massive amount of stuff, which of course I didn't need any of that. But anyway, it showed up in my room.
Keep the champagne, boo. Yes.
And then
Hit me.
when I left the next morning, I checked out, and when I was checking out, then the hotel manager came around. He walked out of the office. He came around and he said, "Hey, I understand what happened at the restaurant. It's completely unacceptable. Please accept our most sincerest apologies." And I said, I got your gift last night. I feel good about it. The hotel is Palazzo Parigi. I highly recommend that anyone who gets the opportunity to go to Milan, even if you don't stay there, at least go into the garden in the back, have a meal, have a glass of wine. It is a phenomenal place. But they actually saved the relationship with me in the way that they handled it. And what really pissed me off was the defensiveness of the waiter when he made it seem like it's my fault. Like, no, this is normal. You're wrong. So
I love it.
To your point.
Two encouragements to business owners right now in the States. In these economic times, the worst thing you can do is be defensive when it comes to reputation management, because consumers are pinching pennies, right? Compromising things to do business with you, right? Saying no to things like kids martial arts or this grocery bill or whatever to keep things running right now. It's like that here, right? And so you have to keep that in mind. When money becomes more personal to the consumer, you've got to be much more careful when it comes to responding to consumers. Don't be an asshole, right? To your point, right? But then secondly, it's perfect because what the company did is actually it's like a perfect segue. I don't know how you do this. What you're talking about, the phenomenon that you're talking about is a net promoter score. You just did it, right?
I just did
one
it.
of the things. So you did generating reviews is an important aspect for trust, credibility, reputation for your company. Net promoter score is an internal mechanic or a KPI that you use as the business owner to determine how well you are doing as a company at accommodating your customers. This number matters. If you're listening to any of Paul's content and you are future thinking about selling this content, keeping customers on your database and in your books is vital, right? It is the difference between you're going to get a meh sell of your company to, oh, damn, we're moving to Puerto Rico, right?
Yep.
It truly is. And so your net promoter score is another outbound communication that you can do. You can do through SMS, you can do through email, just a spot check and see how are we doing as a company. That typically is like on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being, hey, this company sucks, and 10 being, this company's awesome. I'll shout it from the rooftops. What you just did right there was shout from the rooftops, right? I had this experience. I love this place. This was not my favorite experience, but this is what the company did to correct the problem. And because of that, on my freaking YouTube channel, I'm going to tell everybody when you're in Milan, hit this restaurant up, right? Hit this hotel up because it's incredible. That is the second tool. So we've got reviews. And then we've got leveraging your net promoter score to teach you, what are you doing, right? That business owner, that restaurant owner did right by their company and the future of their company by making you happy. And you are happy and you're talking about it. And so you're promoting that business. And it's crazy powerful tool.
So a typical net promoter score, like you said, it's basically, everyone gets these emails. It's like the one question, right? And it's got like that spectrum on a scale of 1 to 10. How likely are you to recommend us to your friends? Not likely at all, 100% all in. And so how many of your clients actually use a service to measure the net promoter score?
Any client that's serious about future talking to Paul Giannamore is, right? It's not 100% of our clients. Some people aren't there yet, right? Some people don't prioritize that just yet. Some people have shitty service, and so they know better than to put their...
They already know it's shit, so
I don't want to know. La, 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 la. Don't tell me. So some people are avoiding it altogether. But the companies that are in the elevated stages of thinking about their 3-year plan, their 5-year plan, or even sooner, they are diligently, usually twice a year, putting out a petition for a net promoter score. Once during the peak of season, this is important, and then once a season is over, right? These give you 2 different pieces of information for pest control specifically, and for lawn care also. If you're in the peak of your season, that lets you know the kind of quality that you're leveraging when things are hard, when your team is taxed, when your schedules are full, when you are exhausted and it's 110 degrees outside. That lets you know how you're doing and what you can modify and adjust to get better, right? And then in the off season, it lets you know how likely are those people to stick it out with you when they don't immediately see a need to use your company. When my lawn is brown, in the winter months, but I am pleased. I've let my lawn care company know that I'm pleased to do business with them. They know that they're likely to keep me until the season picks back up. So they tell you 2 different pieces. I would drop a net promoter score in the middle of your busy season, and I would do it in the middle of your off season as well.
It's a good point. I never really thought about that, but I guess it really makes a lot of sense at the end of the season. Many folks listening to this have a seasonal service business, so at the end of the season, it's pretty good. And you're saying like if that comes back not so great, it gives you an opportunity to
fix it.
Act.
Yeah. Change up your meetings, right? Get your team back online. Hey, we got a meeting tomorrow morning. Dad used to do this shit all the time. We got to meet. Everybody would get an email sometimes at 3 a.m. That's not an exaggeration, because he was wide awake. I want everybody at their desks at 7 o'clock and logged in. We're going to talk about some things. And then we would adjust things operationally to course correct a problem, right? That's a part of business ownership. That's a part of making sure you're doing right by your clients.
Matt, we talked about review services. I don't even know what would you call Podium?
Review, Net Promoter Score, those guys are great. They're fantastic. Shout out Podium. Call me.
Does Podium also do Net Promoter Score?
Yeah, they do.
They do. Okay.
All in one, bringing it all into the same place.
I know that there's a lot of different services out there. You got Podium, which is a big one. You've got a variety of different services, but I do encourage folks to take a look at the ones that will send out reviews to try to catch them before they go onto Google.
And mitigate bad reviews. You want to make sure that function is in there, right?
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. I will say from an M&A perspective, many companies don't monitor their own. It's becoming more and more prolific now. I'd say in 2024, there's far more people doing it than there was just 5 years ago, right? But I think it's an important thing because acquirers will often ask, do you monitor your Net Promoter Score?
Yes, heck yes. We were, anticimex cared about that. We had to come up with one, Paul. We didn't have one.
Yeah.
We're like, oh yeah,
that's
Net
right.
Promoter Score. We're going to get right on that.
We're all over that. I do think that, you know, clearly the devil is in the details, and the devil actually is in the P&L, because if you're actually doing a great job out there and your customers are happy and they're promoting your business, you're growing. If you're going the other way, that's a problem. But I think NPS can be somewhat of a leading indicator for you. If you start running into service problems, it's better to know about it now than later.
Get ahead of it.
Yes. It's cheap too. These things aren't that expensive to be doing this.
Worth every penny.
Yeah, you can benchmark against yourself, right? You start doing NPS scores, and ideally you see an improvement over time, and you can kind of learn. And then when you do get customer complaints and you're getting your reviews, you're doing your NPS, you can, everyone in my experience, you know, companies are like what Tolstoy said, you know, happy families are alike. Each unhappy family is unhappy in its own way. So every company that has problems has its own unique set of problems. And that's why I do think reviews and Net Promoter Scores can be very helpful in determining what your specific problem is. Is it service delivery? Is it being on time? Is it the office, right? Is your problems your field techs, or is your problems your back office and your customer service there and your CSR? So where is the problem with customers? Take a look into it.
Both of these things, your reviews and your Net Promoter Scores, start inside your business. They don't actually start with the consumer, right? How your company and the people that work for your company feel about themselves. This is what I know from being on the other side, not in the digital marketing side, in the family business side, right? How all 167 of us felt about where we worked and the quality that we were putting forth and how far we were willing to go from our consumer started at the top. So one of the first places I would look, if you're struggling with reviews, if you're struggling with Net Promoter Scores, get a little introspective and be honest with yourself. How is my company doing internally, right?
Look in the
what
mirror.
kinds of changes can I make? That's right. Let's quote some Michael Jackson. I don't know about Tolstoy, but I know about some Michael Jackson, all right? I'm going to start with the man in the mirror. How can I, what needs to happen here so that these things get translate into the psychology of the consumer? It's super important.
Well, we spilled some tea this week, Matt.
Lots of tea.
And as always, it's great having you on here. I learned a lot. Look forward to next week.
Next week.